Hello everyone. Evan Abrams here with some creative challenges for you. Welcome to Adobe Live. Thanks for hanging out. Oh no, there's sound somewhere. There we go. Oopsie doodle. So, welcome to the program. I'm Evan Abrams, putting things on mute, but I don't want to put you on mute. If you're in the chat, ask me questions about what you see, what I'm doing. We're going to be working a lot in After Effects today. So we'll be moving some text around, trying to create a truly epic trailer intro. So I hope that's going to be a good time for you. This is a simple project. It's a basic project. If you are new to Adobe Video apps, please follow along. Try to get this stuff done. We might not be able to cover all of the little details, and thankfully the starter files are available to you, so you can find those in the description. Our wonderful mod, Annika, putting them in the chat, so you'll be able to get those. But hello, everybody. Umakar, good to see you. Oliver, Robert, Steve, what's going on? So good to see so many people hanging out with me here. Clarissa, hello. So like I say, if you have any questions, let me know. Try to address them. But hopefully I'm going to be pretty comprehensive with what we're getting into here. So let's get to it. Have a look at the old screen. Here is what we are creating. Now, hopefully my face is nice and tucked out of the way on the interface here. There's a lot of stuff in After Effects to clutter up. But here's what we're creating. We're going to have some text fly in past the camera, whoosh, and then the text will combine together, and then we'll fade it out, and that'll be that. So there are a lot of elements here, obviously. There's a lot of things going on. It seems pretty convoluted. There's only 17 layers, but still, there's enough stuff here. So the main elements that we want to concern ourselves with, though, are the text elements, the lighting elements, the camera, and then the text animations. All this stuff that's hanging out in the back here. We've got, of course, some various solids. We've got a gradient back there. So if we look at this simple little gradient, we've got some sparks that are being made with the CC particle world. So we might not touch that too much. It's a little bit of a deep system to get into. But if we start stripping away a lot of these elements, and then maybe we take away all of these footage elements back here, you see that we get down to the core of it, and it's a few lights and a little bit of text. So we might as well make it from scratch, and I'll show you how we start to put this kind of thing together. So first off, we want to make a new composition. We want that composition to be the size and frame rate of where this is going to go. So if this is going to be going on some HD footage, and it's meant for a theatrical type of thing, probably 24 frames a second is what you want now. If you're working in 4K, you'll want to use that, but we're going to stick with HD for this one. And let's call this epic trailer text, exclamation point. Exclamation point is critical. And we just need to start filling it with stuff. So grab our text tool up here and we'll say epic text. Now, generally we want it in caps, which you can achieve over here in your character panel. Go full caps. And what do we have here for font? We're using Azo Sans right now, Azo Sans Black. What did I use in the original? Let's see. We were using, just so we can do it one for one, Active Grotesque, a nice big chunky sans serif type of font. Use anything you like as long as it is nice and chunky. So, yeah, let's continue with Active Grotesque. Now, we don't want it to be too thick, because we are going to put a little stroke around it. We're going to move these things away from each other, but we want it to be thick enough that it is very dominant in the frame. So we're going to go either bold or extra bold or black, one of those. And in the character palette, we are going to come up here and we're going to put a stroke on it. So you come into the second little bit that's tucked under there, and let's just go ahead and we'll give that a color. I'm going to go with something like a blue, and we can adjust this as we need, but make sure that you do give it a little bit of padding like so. So we're going to make this big enough, maybe 200, that's quite large, and then maybe like 10 for this. And we can size this stuff down as much as you'd like. And we are going to pinch the text together a little bit like that. Now, one of the reasons why the original idea kind of works is because we're able to fly this past the camera as if the camera is moving through a void somewhere in the text. So it's a bit of a cheat. Now, if you, of course, have something like my name, you can see there won't be an easy void in the middle center. So you may need to massage this a little bit to make it work. And of course, this idea doesn't work for all permutations of text. So let's not pigeonhole ourselves too much. I'm going to use the Align panel to get us in the middle center. If you don't see your align panel, come to Window and find it here under Align. So now we want this to three-dimensionally whoosh, move past the camera. So we are going to make this layer 3D, and we need to make a camera. So we're going to right-click and go New, and we are going to say Camera. And right away, we're confronted with a lot of choices. These are just the settings like you would find if you were picking out a regular camera, choosing the body of the camera, choosing the lens of the camera. We're going to use a 35mm preset to exaggerate the perspective a little bit. So you might want to go for something more of a fisheye, something wider. We certainly don't want to go into the telephoto. We don't want to be compressing our frame in any way. Things that are epic are bold and expansive, right? But they seem to dwarf the camera. And one of the best ways to do that is, of course, using something below the 50mm, and that will make the world seem more oppressive to that. That's the idea. We don't want to go too comical, right? If we go on the far extreme down to a 15 or something, that's going to be a little bit wacky. So let's go 35 for now. Now, the reason I say that is because the text is going to move past the camera. And to help us illustrate that, let's see, maybe it's best if we work, like that. We are going to go ahead and we're going to go from one view to two views. So two's views like this. And so you can see we have a top view and the active camera view currently. If you don't currently see things like this, make sure that you have one window selected and you want to set that to top. And this one we'll leave at the active. Now, the next thing we want to do is move this past the camera. Now, we could just grab the Z here and swing it past like that. However, I prefer to create a new null object, make it three-dimensional, and then parent the text to that null so that the null will be doing the moving. This is going to make it easier for us to reposition the text sort of as needed, but we are going to bring it past the camera. Hopefully you can see the little line here. Here's a little triangle. You can see that where the triangle comes together, that is when you know that the text has moved in front of the camera. And so we're going to put it right there, pretty much right at the pane. Call it the position. Set a little keyframe there. And let's see, let's just move ahead. How fast? Something like there. And we'll just set this to come to rest at 0, right? It's going to come back to its original plane like that. And already we're nailing it, right? We are nailing it so far. And if you're good with this, you can stop right there. But I am going to ease this second keyframe by hitting F9. Then I'm going to enter into the graph editor, and you can see a speed graph in here, graphing the speed of this over time. And I'm going to give this handle a pull like that so that it's influencing even more. So it's coming in and then coming to a rest like that. Ah, nice resty rest right there. Now, this, of course, doesn't have depth to it, and you can tell that it doesn't have depth because as we move past it, there's nothing super deep about it, you know? So what we want to do is change our renderer from Classic 3D to Cinema 4D. And I'm going to make sure I save first. Always save early and often. And we're going to switch into Cinema 4D mode. Now, what has happened? Oh boy, everything looks different. Well, we're going to come in here, and we're going to come into our composition settings, and I'll just talk to you a little bit about 3D renderer. This is the way in which After Effects understands 3D things. So you can see that as we've switched into the Cinema 4D renderer, some things have been enabled, some things have been disabled. And in particular, the things that have been enabled, extruding and beveling of text and shapes. I like what I'm hearing. But disabled are blending modes, track mats, layer styles, masks and effects on continuously rasterized layers, of which text is a continuously rasterized layer, and therefore we cannot be putting too many things on there. So we're limited, right? We're picking and choosing. But the Cinema 4D renderer will allow us to come into the properties of Epic Text, come into the text here, come into our geometry options. There's the one we want. Let me solo that so it's not super confusing. And we can give this an extrusion depth. So as you can see, I can start to extrude it. Now let's extrude it by, let's see, this is 200 large. So let's go ahead and extrude it by maybe 100 pixels. And you can see how that the camera is adding to the depth. This doesn't have to be super big. Maybe let's go 60 like that. Maybe that's extreme enough. And we can see how it's going to look as this moves past the camera. So let that be your guide for how extruded this needs to be. So we're going to go push like that. And you can see the more you extrude it, the further back we have to pull this thing. So we're just going to make sure that it's all the way back. So it's all the way back hidden, and then it's going to come through like that. But of course, Evan, where did your stroke go? Well, we understand stroke a little bit differently in this context. This requires a little bit of a bevel. So I'm going to say, give us an angular bevel. And you look at that, our stroke is back. And then let's see, let's bevel it out, say a little bit like that. So we've got a little bit of an edge on there. And it's angular, so it actually does have that geometry right there. The stroke has gone where no man has gone before. Yeah, right into the trash is where it has gone. So the other thing, though, you may have to continually come back and say, oh, I need to touch this up, and it needs to go a little bit further beyond so that it's not being interfered with. There we go. So it's coming through. Big thumbs up for us here. I'm liking this. Now, what we want to do is get the sides of this to conform to what the stroke is, or at least be close to it. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to say animate the side color RGB. Now, as you can see, we've now sort of painted the side of this. So if you want kind of multiple colors in here, you can do that. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to eyedropper. I'm going to pick the side there. And right now, it all looks pretty flat stuff. That's not what we want. We don't want flat things. We want epic things that have dimension. So with that, we are going to need to bring some light into our scene. Right click, new light. Let's make sure that we are saving, etc. And we're going to create a point light. It's going to be a 100% intensity, and we're going to give it a fall off that has a kind of radius to it. Let's just go with a 1920 radius, the same radius as the size of this comp. Imagine, if you will, though, that this radius that we're talking about is the point at which the light starts to decay in our universe. So we're creating realistic lights, and we do want it to cast shadows, and so the darkness will be 100% and the diffusion will be 20, so they're soft. They're softer shadows. We'll hit OK on that. And right away, we're cast into perfect darkness. And that is because the light, as you can see from our diagram, our top view here, the light is behind the object. And so that looks pretty cool. And then eventually, woof, it's cast into light because it has passed the plane. It has passed that plane by where you can actually see things. So we're going to take this and maybe we're going to move it off to the side. Maybe we'll move it forward. And the timing when this passes that plane is when it goes from a state of darkness to a state of brightness. So dialing in where we specifically want that to happen is part of our little art direction that we want. Now, I've got my proportional grid on here. I'm going to take that off so that we can enjoy the fullness of this. But this is basically how the technique works, that this thing comes through, we get little hints of it, and then it comes into the light, just like that. Now, depending on how you want to craft this, maybe we move this down, maybe I'll duplicate another one, and we'll kind of light it from this side, and I'll move it maybe a little bit closer like that. We're going to do a little bit of art directing here of our situation. So we'll get this over maybe like that. And we are actually going to take them down in intensity. So if I bring this down to 50 and I bring this one down to 50, now both of them are sort of contributing to the overall lighting. And we're getting a little bit more nuanced lighting happening with this, which is exactly what we want. Now, are we going to add the background, the night sky in the background? We will. Hopefully I've got time. Hopefully I can cover everything. But if we don't get to it, all we're really going to do is take some footage of, say, smoke, etc., drop that into the background, and that's pretty much it. So we're just putting real smoky elements back there, and that's really all you need to bring this together. I mean, for more detail on how that'll work, you really want to delve in and download the project file. You must do that so that you can check it out and see it in all of its glory. Okay, however, I'm sidetracking myself. We need to have one more light. And in most lighting setups, this is the rim light that is going to hit this with light from the back. So we're going to move this kind of in the back, like here, based on the kind of final resting state. So this is quite a bit in the back. Now, the reason we're doing this is because we are about to enjoy a little bit more of this geometry. We want this to animate. We want this to come together. So we are going to come into our epic text. We're going to twirl down into it, and we are going to animate some more things about it. So I'm going to rename this animator by selecting it, hitting enter, and we're going to just call this color shift. Now you can tell that I'm Canadian because I spell color thusly. And now we're going to just go ahead and let's animate something about this text. Let's animate its tracking. So we're going to come down here to tracking. Now tracking is how spaced out this is. And so if we want a little bit of an assembling vibe, text assemble, we're going to put it up to a track amount of 100. And we are going to move forward. Remember to hit the stopwatch to set your keyframes. And we're going to bring this down to 20, maybe even 10. Go like that. But over the course of this thing, as it's flying past us, what's it doing? It's combining together. So you can see that it's starting to come together like that. And you may want to grab this, hit F9 to ease it. So we get that kind of a thing. And maybe even you only want it to start to come together right around here. So we'll set an ease keyframe there so that it starts to come together like that. Perfectly good. Enjoying that. So let's call this the tracking shift. Now, what else can we shift about this? Well, let's go ahead and animate about this, the rotation. And you can see here that rotation only has one property about it, but these are three-dimensional, so we want to animate all the different axes that we can make this happen. So we are going to say animate enable per character 3D, and now we get X, Y, and Z rotations. So again, another Canadianism coming to you. And if I want to say give this a little tilt like so, we're going to get the Y rotation going from 90 degrees, setting the stopwatch, sliding this back, and it's going to animate down to 0. So as this thing comes together, if we enjoy this, it's going to slide past. And then as the light comes onto it, we're going to start to see it start to assemble together like that. And that is how we are getting this type of thing. Now, this is very basic text animation, right? There's not a lot of nuance in here. But one little thing I do want to do, I want these rotating around their center. And as you can probably tell right now, the middle center, the axis they're rotating around, you can see it right here. It's at the front of the letter, and that's not what I want. So I need to shift that. And kind of a hacky way that we have to do that is to say animate. We are going to animate the anchor point. Now, we're not particularly animating it, but we are changing it. So we're going to say animate anchor point. And again, we're going to put this up here. Order is often important. And we're going to say anchor point shift. And this anchor point shift, what we're going to do is we're just going to come in here. We're going to dial it up on the Z so that it goes like this. So we're going to say, what would that be? That would be maybe 50 points. No. It is 40 because we extruded them 80. So 40 is going to put it in the middle. And we'll slide that through. See how we enjoy that. It's coming together. And that's right. If you're wondering if this could be recreated using the typewriter preset and enabling 3D, unfortunately, you'll end up with stuff typing on, but it will be 3D. But anything you create with this, you can select all of your animators if you so desire. All of these things, come up to your presets and say, save animation preset. If you do something wonderful, you want to save it to keep it for later. But here we go. We've got this thing coming together like that. I don't know how you're feeling about it so far, but I am enjoying the way this looks. There are some tweaks that I want to make to it, and those tweaks will mostly come in the form of the material options. So we're going to twirl down to the material options. I am a material animator living in a material world. We are going to go into the one view, the single view, so that we can focus up on this stuff. And the materials are going to change how light interacts with the surface. And so we're going to come on down here and we are going to say, hey, let's make that specular more intense, which is the intensity, how bright something will shine as it bounces off of the surface. And then the shininess, check this out, we're going to crank that up. And you'll probably say like, Evan, that's becoming less shiny. It's darker. Well, the shininess is reducing kind of the angle at which we will sort of accept. So it's narrowing down the band where things are going to flash at us. But that's going to give us this flashier text. And the way we've set it up, that it'll be more evenly lit when it comes in like this. So we're really exploiting the kind of lighting scenario that we've set up here. And that is working out pretty nicely. Now, of course, We've got, all of 5 minutes, so let's see what other details I can put together for you here so that you can get yours looking much, much more like the example. One of the things that you probably want to do with this is to work on the color of the lighting. Now, we've used blues for our strokes and our extrudes, our sides. But if we want to paint a little bit more color in here, come into one of your lights. And keep in mind, this is the one that's kind of front and center. So I'm going to drag this over to be a little bit pink. And you can see that the light that's casting on those white surfaces is responding by becoming pinker. And maybe light 2, it's hitting it from the other side. So we're going to go over here and we're going to make that kind of a blue. We're going to a little pink blue contrast out there. And then maybe from behind, we're tagging it from behind. Let's make that maybe a yellow. Something like that. So you can hopefully see where these different lighting sources are going to interact with each other. The yellow's hitting it first because that's in behind. Then we come through and they start to tilt and they're exposing themselves to the different lights. And then we end up with something like that. Now in the final lockup where we wanted to go with, and are we adding any glow? Actually, the original does not have any glows on it. You could, of course. But remember that effects are a little bit dicey because we have removed the ability to apply them to a lot of things. So I'll put them on an adjustment layer and I'll tag a glow over top of this. And you can see how that's responding to the various elements. Now, what's really cool about the glow, even though these things seem really neutral to our eyes, the glow is picking up the colors in them. So I'm going to bring the glow radius up quite a bit, and we'll bring the intensity up quite a lot like that. And you can see how those two lights are really contributing to that as things play over the surface here. Now, there's a couple of other things that I want to bring your attention to, a couple of more interesting elements that you might bring in. If we wanted this epic text to sort of resolve itself into plain text, so going from this textured experience, we want to reduce it back down, we are going to come into the material options and we are going to deal with the diffuse here. Now, if we put diffuse all the way up and all the way down, you can see how that is sort of responding to the world around it. And so we're able to blow things out in this way and to make some very interesting sort of things happen with these elements as we sort of keyframe the way they're interacting with each other. There are a couple of other things, though, that I want to do before we get there. One, we want shadows to be cast, so we're going to turn shadow casting on. And it's already accepting shadows, but now we've added a little bit more dimensionality as this thing is casting shadows on itself. So that's looking great. And I know we're running low on time, so let's actually just go back to the example. We'll go back to the example here, the assembly zone here, so you can see how the original was done with our sparks and our backplate and all those great things. If you come on down here into our three footage elements that have been dropped back there, these are just smoke elements that have been dropped in behind. I've gone ahead and added a little curves adjustment, and all that curves adjustment is doing is taking them from a gray thing and making them into a colored thing. And I am using blending modes on them. They're set to screen, and because they're two-dimensional, they still get to enjoy their blending modes out here. As we blend them all together, we're blending that over top of some sparks that are living in the background. We're blending that over top of a gradient. Gradients are always nice. You must have some gradients to add some dimensionality back there. And the sparks are being generated using CC Particle World, which we could spend hours just talking about this. So we will not delve too deeply into that today. But I will say, one thing that is really helpful is we can take our lights. And I'll show you how to do this. We're going to make a new null object. We're going to make it three-dimensional, and I'm going to call this light control. And we're going to parent our lights, the two lights that live in the front, and we're going to parent those to that null. Call up its rotation, and you're going to see that as I rotate these lights around, you can see that those two are rotating in a little system. So if you want, over the course of this thing, to give this a little bit more life to it, we'll rotate these lights swinging around as this thing is coming into rest. So as you can see, as this comes through, the light is playing over the surface. Even when it comes to rest like this, we're going to read the text, And so we want that light to still continue sweeping over. That's exactly what we want. Now, of course, we didn't dip in any fractals, so I must be having an off day. No fractals at play today. But I hope you've enjoyed dipping into this little primer on epic text. We're moving past the camera. We're making sure to bring the text together using those text animators. We're revealing it with light. So we're showing the indication of text as it comes by, and then we're using the position of the lights to cast the light onto this thing, and it will illuminate this. But please, download the project files. Have a look at how the full version is made. These are just the bare bones, and when you make something with it, we want you to share it with us. I want to see all of your epic text. Share it with us on the Discord. I believe that's bit.ly/PR Discord. So go there. I'm going to check them out. We're going to be reviewing them on Friday, not this Friday, Friday next after that one. And we'll have a look at all the beautiful stuff that's going on. I'm back at you tomorrow with more of this. We've got projects aplenty this week and next, potentially diving into some new features coming into Premiere. So I hope that you enjoy that. Hope you enjoyed this. Until next time, stay creative, be kind to each other, and I'll see you all around the internet. Enjoy the rest of Adobe Live for the day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.